Hi, welcome back to Love of Writing. This is Star. And today I want to talk just a bit about plausibility and predictability. So, plausibility is basically just whether or not you believe something can happen in a story or even the premise. And it's important because if you lose plausibility, if your reader feels like something that you've written or a plot line or an occurrence is implausible, they don't believe it. Like, it doesn't make sense. Whether it is something that's out of character for your particular characters or a situation, it just means they're not buying it. And that's never good. Like, one example now, this is the movie, but in Die Hard, I think it was the third one. I mean, everybody loves John McClane, but it's like he can do no wrong. But I think at one point he like jumped off a helicopter or landed on a helicopter. And I just thought, okay, that's implausible. I mean, he's done so much stuff that's almost impossible for most humans, but we buy into it. So plausibility is important in your stories because you want your readers to buy into not only your plot, but what's going on and what your characters are doing. So plausibility is super important. Predictability, on the other hand, it's kind of funny because it can go either way. So if something is predictable, it means that before the end comes or possibly the climax of your story, your reader already knows what's going to happen. They may not know how it's going to happen, but if it's something that they can see a mile off, sometimes it disappoints your reader. It's like, oh man, I knew this was coming. However, on the flip side, it can do the opposite. It can be like, oh, I knew that was going to happen, and you're super excited about it. So predictability can kind of go either way. You don't want your story that is so predictable that it's just kind of not even fun to read because the writer's like, okay, I mean, the reader is like, okay, we all knew where it was going to go. So you want to kind of have some surprises or something in there. And then plausibility and predictability can go hand in hand because I enjoy stories where I'm surprised. I did not see that coming, but also on the edge of that, if something is even borderline implausible, but it still grabs you as a reader, that is a skill to be able to balance those two so that you can take your reader to the edge of something that's like, I almost don't believe that, but you still grip them to the point where they're still bought into the whole concept. That is a success. So think about plausibility when especially if there's something, let's say you have a character that's maybe you're in a series of books, you're in book number 2, and all of a sudden your main character that your readers are familiar with is suddenly doing something completely out of character. That becomes implausible. And in that situation, it's not necessarily the best thing because unless you've laid a foundation where maybe that character has been drinking or somebody spiked something or they're doing drugs and it makes them behave in a way that's out of character with what your reader is used to from that person. Now also there's a situation that could be super crazy borderline with something that's like, okay, I'm going to land on a helicopter. But, obviously with the Bruce Willis movie, which I adore him, he's got adrenaline, all these different factors. So if there's a way to have an occurrence or something that's way out there on the edge, on the fringe of plausibility, you can make the reader buy into it with laying a foundation of, somebody's child has been kidnapped. So of course they're going to do this. They're going to do anything, or adrenaline is flowing, or, there's ways to take something that can seem implausible and make your reader buy into it. But it does require a lot of skill. And then with predictability also, like I said, it could go either way. You kind of want them. I love to surprise my readers, and I like to be surprised. But, there have been, again, I'll go with a movie. There's been movies that I've seen, and it's like, oh, like, the hallmarks, they're formulas. And they're kind of sweet and romantic, whatever, a little cheeseball sometimes, but I like them. And what's going to work out. Those are predictable. But if you make the journey worth it, if there's different twists and turns and it's just things that touch you and are sweet and keep the reader engaged, then predictability is not necessarily, the worst thing in the world. There's ways to do it where you can take them on this ride that is still worth it. And also it's something when, like, let's say you have an ending that is completely unpredictable. Sometimes that can work against you too, because if all the characters, let's say, die at the end, that's kind of heartbreaking. So just keep in mind plausibility and predictability in your writing, and just know that there is a balance to each of those. So enjoy the ride.